Our 7th wedding anniversary was supposed to be a night of celebration. Instead, it became the night my world came crashing down. I found a message on Jessica's phone while she was in the shower, getting ready for our big night out. The message was from someone named Mike, and it was far from innocent. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you," it read, followed by a heart emoji. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Jessica had always been the love of my life, the mother of our 2 beautiful children, Ben and Lily. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I never imagined she could betray me like this. When she emerged from the bathroom, looking stunning in her new dress, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Who is Mike?" I asked, holding up her phone. Her face went pale and she froze, unable to come up with an immediate lie. That hesitation was all I needed to confirm my worst fears. After a long, tense silence, she finally admitted it. She had been seeing someone else. The pain was indescribable. It felt like a knife had been driven through my heart. But despite the overwhelming betrayal, I chose to forgive her. I couldn't imagine tearing our family apart, especially for the sake of Ben and Lily. We agreed to work on our marriage, attend counseling, and rebuild the trust that had been shattered. Months passed, and while things seemed to improve on the surface, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. Jessica started working late more often. Her phone always seemed to be glued to her hand, and she was more secretive than ever. One day I found a receipt in her car from a restaurant far from her office. It wasn't a place we had ever been to together. My suspicions grew, and I knew I needed answers. I hired a private investigator, hoping to either put my fears to rest or confirm them once and for all. What he found was worse than I could have imagined. Jessica was having an affair with a colleague from work. It had been going on for months, right under my nose. Confronting her again, I was beyond devastated. She tried to explain, to make excuses, but I couldn't hear any of it. The betrayal was too deep this time. Divorce was the only option left. As if the universe wanted to deliver one final blow, I learned during the divorce proceedings that Ben and Lily were not my biological children. The truth crushed me, leaving me feeling completely and utterly broken. In the depths of my despair, a dark resolve began to form. I couldn't let her get away with this. She had destroyed our marriage, our family, and my sense of self. It was time for her to face the consequences of her actions. And so, my plan for revenge began to take shape. The days following my discovery of Jessica's first affair were some of the hardest of my life. Forgiveness is never easy, and forgiving someone you love for such a betrayal feels almost impossible. Yet I was determined to try. For the sake of our children and the life we had built together, I had to at least attempt to salvage our marriage. We started seeing a family therapist named Dr. Roberts. Each session was grueling, dragging out painful truths and buried resentments. Jessica confessed that she had felt neglected and unappreciated, her words cutting me deeply. I admitted my faults, acknowledging how work and stress had sometimes made me distant. It felt like we were dissecting every moment of our marriage, trying to find where it had all gone wrong. Despite the agony of these sessions, there were moments of hope. We would leave the therapist's office holding hands, trying to reconnect and rebuild. For the first time in years, we had deep, honest conversations. I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could make it through this. But the shadow of her betrayal loomed over everything. Trust is a fragile thing, and once broken, it takes a long time to mend. Jessica sensed my doubts and suspicions, and it drove a wedge between us even further. Every time she received a text or call, I couldn't help but wonder if it was happening again. Then came the day I found the restaurant receipt in her car. It was for a place called La Trattoria, a quaint little Italian spot miles away from her office. My heart sank as I stared at the slip of paper. Why would she be there? Who was she with? The questions gnawed at me, and I couldn't ignore them. I decided to confront her, hoping for an innocent explanation. That night, after the kids were in bed, I showed her the receipt. "Jessica, why were you at La Trattoria? We've never been there together." Her eyes widened, and for a moment, I saw panic flash across her face. She quickly masked it, but it was too late. My doubts were confirmed. "It was just a lunch meeting with some colleagues," she said, her voice too even, too rehearsed. My stomach churned. "Why didn't you tell me about it?" "It was nothing important, just a casual lunch. I didn't think it mattered." Her answers were hollow, devoid of any real emotion. The seeds of doubt planted in my mind began to grow, and I knew I needed to find out the truth. Hiring a private investigator felt like a last resort, but I needed clarity. The investigator, a grizzled man named Frank, assured me he would get to the bottom of it. I waited anxiously for his report, hoping against hope that I was wrong. When Frank finally delivered his findings, my world collapsed once more. Jessica had been meeting with a colleague named David, and it was far from a professional relationship. The pictures he provided, of them holding hands, laughing, and sharing intimate moments, were undeniable proof of her continued betrayal. I confronted Jessica that evening, my hands trembling with rage and heartbreak. "How could you do this to me again? To us?" She burst into tears, pleading and apologizing, but her words fell on deaf ears. The trust, already hanging by a thread, snapped completely. I knew then that our marriage was beyond saving. Divorce became inevitable, a painful but necessary step to reclaim my life. As we navigated the legal proceedings, the final blow came in the form of a paternity test. Ben and Lily, the children I had loved and raised as my own, were not mine. The news devastated me, leaving me feeling more betrayed and alone than ever. In my darkest moments, a cold determination took hold. Jessica had ruined everything I held dear, and I couldn't let her escape unscathed. It was time to make her pay, to show her the pain and suffering she had caused. My plan for revenge was set in motion, driven by the burning desire to see her face the consequences of her actions. After the revelation of Jessica's second affair, life became a blur of emotions and actions. The nights were the worst, filled with endless questions and unrelenting pain. I often found myself lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering where it all went wrong. Jessica moved out shortly after our confrontation. Seeing her pack her things and leave was both a relief and a new kind of torment. The house felt emptier, the silence heavier. Ben and Lily were confused and hurt, their innocent faces filled with questions I couldn't answer. Explaining the situation to them without revealing the full extent of the betrayal was one of the hardest things I had to do. The legal proceedings were brutal. Lawyers were involved, and every aspect of our lives was scrutinized. Jessica tried to play the victim, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. My focus, however, shifted when I received the results of the paternity tests. Learning that Ben and Lily were not my biological children was the final blow. The betrayal now spanned not just our marriage, but the very foundation of our family. As I grappled with this new reality, my grief began to transform into anger. Jessica's actions had taken everything from me, my trust, my marriage, and now, even the certainty of my children's parentage. This was not something I could simply walk away from. I needed to take control of the situation and ensure that she faced the consequences of her actions. I started by gathering all the evidence of her infidelity and deceit. Emails, messages, photographs, all of it became part of my arsenal. I wanted to make sure everyone knew the truth about Jessica. Her friends, her colleagues, her family. Everyone would see her for who she truly was. I sent anonymous emails to her colleagues with the photos of her and David, exposing their affair. The fallout was immediate. Jessica's workplace, a place where she had built her career, turned against her. Whispers followed her in the halls, and her once sterling reputation was in tatters. She faced the cold stares and silent judgment of her peers every day. Social media became another battleground. I created anonymous accounts to share her indiscretions, making sure her circle of friends and family saw the truth. The impact was devastating. Invitations to events disappeared, and the supportive messages from friends turned into angry confrontations. Jessica was becoming a pariah in her community. But it wasn't enough. I needed to ensure she felt the financial consequences of her actions as well. During the divorce proceedings, I fought for and won a significant portion of our assets. I also secured primary custody of Ben and Lily. Although they weren't my biological children, they were still my kids, and I wanted to protect them from the turmoil Jessica had created. With the legal battles behind me, I decided to make a fresh start. I moved to a new city, taking Ben and Lily with me. It was a chance to rebuild our lives away from the shadow of Jessica's betrayal. The move was hard on the kids, but it was necessary for our healing. As we settled into our new home, I focused on being the best father I could be. Ben and Lily needed stability and love, and I was determined to provide it. I found a new job, made new friends, and slowly the wounds began to heal. Yet amidst all this, there was a dark satisfaction in knowing that Jessica was suffering the consequences of her actions. Her life was in shambles, and she had no one to blame but herself. She had destroyed our family, and now she was paying the price. Time passed, and I eventually met a woman named Catherine. She was kind, understanding, and patient, everything Jessica was not. As our relationship grew, I made a vow to myself to learn from my past, to not repeat the mistakes that had led to my previous marriage's downfall. Life was far from perfect, but it was moving forward. The pain of the past lingered, but it was no longer a constant presence. Jessica's betrayal had changed me, but it had also made me stronger and more determined to protect my heart and my family. And so, with a new beginning in sight, I took one last look at the remnants of my old life and stepped into the future, ready to embrace whatever came next. The move to a new city was supposed to be a fresh start for me and the kids, but the scars of betrayal didn't heal overnight. Every time I looked at Ben and Lily, I was reminded of the deception that had torn our family apart. But I was determined to create a stable and loving environment for them, far away from the chaos that Jessica had caused. Jessica, however, wasn't ready to let go. She continued to call and text, pleading for forgiveness and demanding visitation rights. Each message was a stark reminder of the turmoil she had brought into our lives. I reluctantly agreed to supervised visits for the sake of the children, but each encounter was a painful ordeal. One day, while picking up the kids from one of these visits, Jessica approached me. Her face was pale, and her eyes filled with tears. "Please, Michael," she begged. "I know I messed up, but I miss our family. I miss you." Her words felt like salt in an open wound. I wanted to scream at her, to make her feel the depth of my pain, but instead, I took a deep breath and kept my voice steady. "It's too late, Jessica. You've already done enough damage. I need to protect Ben and Lily from any more hurt." She nodded, tears streaming down her face, and turned away. Watching her walk away, I felt a mix of sadness and anger. Sadness for what could have been, and anger for what she had destroyed. The weeks turned into months, and slowly, life began to settle into a new routine. The kids adjusted to their new school, and I found solace in my work and new friendships. Catherine, the woman I had met, became a pillar of support. Her kindness and understanding helped me navigate through the lingering pain. But the peace was short-lived. One evening, I received a call from Frank, the private investigator who had uncovered Jessica's affairs. His voice was urgent. "Michael, I've got some information you need to know." He went on to explain that Jessica was trying to find a way to get full custody of the kids. She had been gathering evidence, twisting facts, and even fabricating stories to portray me as an unfit father. My blood ran cold as I listened. The thought of losing Ben and Lily was unbearable. I immediately contacted my lawyer, determined to fight back. The legal battle was fierce, with both sides presenting their cases. Jessica's lies and manipulations were exposed, and it became clear to the court that her actions were driven by spite and desperation. During the proceedings, my lawyer presented the evidence of Jessica's affairs, her attempts to sabotage my reputation, and the fact that she had deceived me about the paternity of our children. The judge saw through her schemes and ruled in my favor, granting me full custody of Ben and Lily. The court victory was a relief, but it also marked the end of any remaining connection to Jessica. She was ordered to attend therapy and could only see the kids under strict supervision. I hoped that one day she would understand the consequences of her actions and genuinely seek to better herself for the sake of the children. With the legal battles behind us, I focused on rebuilding our lives. Catherine became an integral part of our family, and her gentle nature brought a sense of calm and stability that we desperately needed. Ben and Lily thrived in the new environment, and their laughter slowly began to fill our home once again. Despite the progress, the shadows of the past lingered. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. I often found myself second-guessing people's motives, always wary of potential deceit. But with Catherine, I learned to take small steps towards opening my heart again. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Catherine took my hand. "You've been through so much, Michael, but you're a wonderful father and a good man. Don't let the past define your future." Her words resonated deeply, and I realized that holding on to the pain was only hurting myself and the ones I loved. It was time to let go of the past and embrace the new life we were building. And so, I made a conscious effort to move forward, to cherish the moments of joy, and to learn from the pain. Jessica's betrayal had left deep scars, but it also taught me resilience and the importance of trust. With Catherine by my side and the love of my children, I began to believe in the possibility of a brighter future. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. The shadows of doubt and betrayal were slowly fading, replaced by the light of new beginnings and the promise of a better tomorrow. Life in the new city brought a sense of renewal that I desperately needed. The wounds from Jessica's betrayal were still there, but the fresh surroundings helped us all to start anew. Ben and Lily settled into their new school, making friends and thriving in their activities. Seeing them smile again was like a balm for my wounded heart. Catherine was a constant source of support. Her presence brought a calming influence to our chaotic lives. She was patient with Ben and Lily, and they quickly grew fond of her. It wasn't long before she became an integral part of our family. One Saturday morning, Catherine suggested we take the kids to the local park for a picnic. The sun was shining, and it felt like the perfect day to make some new memories. We packed a basket with sandwiches, fruit, and drinks and set off to the park. As we spread out the blanket and settled in, I couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment that had eluded me for so long. Watching Ben and Lily run around, playing tag and laughing, was a reminder of the simple joys that life could offer. Catherine sat beside me, her hand resting gently on mine. "You know, you've done an incredible job with them, Michael. They're happy and healthy, and that's because of you." I smiled, squeezing her hand. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've been my rock through all of this." We watched the kids play, and for a moment it felt like the dark days were finally behind us. But even in these moments of peace, the shadow of Jessica's betrayal still lingered. I knew I had to confront it fully if I wanted to move on completely. That evening, after we put the kids to bed, I sat down with Catherine. "There's something I need to talk to you about," I began, feeling the weight of my words. She looked at me, concern in her eyes. "What is it, Michael?" "I need to close the chapter with Jessica once and for all. It's been hanging over me, and I can't move forward with you, with us, until I've dealt with it." Catherine nodded, understanding. "What do you have in mind?" "I'm going to see her. I need to talk to her, not to forgive her, but to let her know that she no longer has any power over me. I need to do this for myself, for Ben and Lily, and for us." The next day, I arranged to meet Jessica at a coffee shop. As I walked in, I saw her sitting by the window, looking nervous and worn out. She glanced up and forced a smile as I approached. "Michael, it's good to see you," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. I sat down across from her, taking a deep breath. "Jessica, I didn't come here to rehash the past. I came here to tell you that I'm moving on. You've caused enough damage, and I won't let you control my life anymore." She looked down, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know I've made terrible mistakes, and I'm truly sorry. I never meant to hurt you like this." Her apology was sincere, but it was too late for forgiveness. "I hope you can find a way to be a better person for Ben and Lily's sake. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the end. I'm letting go of the anger and the pain. It's time for me to build a new life." Jessica nodded, wiping away her tears. "I understand, Michael. I do. I hope you find happiness." With that, I stood up and left the coffee shop, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. It was the closure I needed, a final step in putting the past behind me. Returning home, I found Catherine waiting for me with a reassuring smile. "How did it go?" she asked. "It's over," I replied, feeling a sense of peace. "I've said what I needed to say. Now it's time to focus on our future." Catherine hugged me tightly, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly free. The chapter with Jessica was closed and a new one was beginning. A chapter filled with hope, love, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. With Catherine by my side and the kids thriving, I knew that the best was yet to come. The journey had been painful, but it had also made me stronger. And now, it was time to embrace the happiness that lay ahead, leaving the shadows of the past far behind. With Jessica firmly in the past, and my heart set on building a future with Catherine, life began to take on a new rhythm. Ben and Lily were adapting well to their new school, and I was finally finding peace in my daily routine. However, Life has a way of throwing surprises when you least expect them. One afternoon, while cleaning out the garage, I stumbled upon an old box of Jessica's things. It had been tucked away in a corner, forgotten amidst the chaos of our move. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to take a look inside. Among the usual mementos, photos, letters, and keepsakes, I found a stack of documents I had never seen before. At the bottom of the stack was an old journal. I hesitated for a moment before opening it, unsure if I wanted to delve back into the past. But something compelled me to read it. The journal entries were from years ago, detailing the early days of our marriage and the struggles Jessica faced. As I read, I began to see a side of her I had never fully understood. She wrote about feeling isolated and overwhelmed, about the pressures of balancing work and motherhood. There were entries about her guilt over the affair and her regret for the pain she caused. One entry in particular stood out. It was written shortly before our divorce. "Michael doesn't deserve any of this. I've hurt him more than I can ever make up for. Sometimes I wonder if things could have been different if I had just talked to him, if I hadn't let my insecurities and fears drive me to make such terrible choices. I hope one day he can find happiness again." The words stirred a mix of emotions within me. While they didn't excuse her actions, they provided a glimpse into her struggles and regrets. It made me realize that the end of our marriage was more complex than I had allowed myself to acknowledge. That evening, as Catherine and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, I decided to share what I had found. "I came across something today," I began, handing her the journal. Catherine looked through the entries, her expression thoughtful. "It seems like she was dealing with a lot," she said finally. "She was," I agreed. "It doesn't change what she did, but it helps me understand why things happened the way they did." Catherine nodded. "Understanding the past can be a step towards healing. It's good that you found this. Maybe it will help you let go of any lingering anger." I smiled, grateful for her wisdom and support. "You're right. It's time to truly move forward." In the weeks that followed, I noticed a change within myself. The anger that had been my constant companion for so long began to fade, replaced by a sense of acceptance. I started to focus more on the present and the future, rather than the pain of the past. Catherine and I grew closer, our relationship deepening with each passing day. We made plans for the future, talked about traveling, and even discussed the possibility of expanding our family. The kids adored her, and I could see how much she cared for them in return. One evening, as we were having dinner, Ben looked up at Catherine and said, "Are you going to be our new mom?" The room fell silent, and I glanced at Catherine, unsure of how she would respond. She smiled gently at Ben and said, "I'm not here to replace anyone, but I will always be here for you no matter what." Ben seemed satisfied with that answer, and we continued our meal. But his question lingered in my mind. Catherine had become such an important part of our lives, and I couldn't imagine our future without her. A few days later, I decided to take the next step. On a quiet evening, after the kids were in bed, I took Catherine's hand and led her to the porch. "Catherine, you've been my rock through all of this. You've shown me what it means to truly love and care for someone. I can't imagine my life without you in it." She looked at me, her eyes shining with emotion. "I feel the same way, Michael. You and the kids mean the world to me." Taking a deep breath, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small box. "I want us to build a future together. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Michael. 1,000 times yes." As we embraced, I felt a sense of peace and joy that I hadn't experienced in years. The past had shaped us, but it didn't define us. We were moving forward, together, ready to face whatever life had in store. With Catherine by my side and the kids thriving, the future looked brighter than ever. The journey had been long and painful, but it had led us to this moment, a new beginning filled with hope, love, and the promise of happiness. Planning a wedding while raising 2 kids and balancing work was no easy feat, but Catherine and I managed to find joy in every moment of it. We decided on a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family, focusing on the love and new beginnings that brought us together. However, as the wedding day approached, an unexpected issue arose. Jessica wanted to meet. She had heard about our upcoming wedding and insisted on having a conversation. My initial reaction was one of resistance. What more could she possibly want to say? But Catherine, ever the voice of reason, encouraged me to meet with her. Maybe she just needs closure, Catherine suggested. And maybe you do too, before we start this new chapter. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet Jessica at a cafe in town. As I sat waiting, my mind raced with memories of our past, the good times and the betrayals. When Jessica walked in, she looked different, tired and more subdued. She sat down across from me, and for a moment we just looked at each other in silence. "Thank you for meeting me, Michael," she began, her voice shaky. "I know I'm the last person you want to see right now." I nodded, keeping my emotions in check. "What do you need, Jessica?" She took a deep breath. "I heard about your wedding, and I wanted to talk to you before it happened. I've been doing a lot of soul-searching and therapy since everything happened. I realize now how much pain I caused you and the kids." "I've moved on, Jessica," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I've made peace with what happened." She looked down, fiddling with her coffee cup. "I'm glad to hear that. But there's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you a long time ago." I felt a knot form in my stomach. What more could she possibly reveal? "Go on," I urged. She hesitated, then finally spoke. "Ben and Lily, they're not David's children either. The truth is, I don't know who their biological father is. During that time, I was involved with multiple people. I'm so sorry, Michael." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. All this time, the uncertainty about their paternity had been a source of deep pain and confusion. And now, to learn that even she didn't know their true father, it was almost too much to bear. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Because you deserve to know the truth," she said, tears streaming down her face. "And because I want you to understand that despite everything, you've always been their father in every way that matters. They love you, and they need you." I took a deep breath, trying to process this new information. "I appreciate your honesty, but this doesn't change anything. Ben and Lily are my children, and nothing will ever change that." Jessica nodded, wiping her tears. "I know, and I'm grateful for everything you've done for them. I just needed to tell you the truth before you move on with your life." The conversation left me emotionally drained, but also strangely liberated. The burden of not knowing had been lifted, and with it, a sense of finality settled in. I left the cafe feeling lighter, ready to embrace the future with Catherine and the kids. Back home, I shared the conversation with Catherine. She listened intently, her hand in mine, offering silent support. When I finished, she looked at me with love and understanding. "You're an amazing father, Michael. Ben and Lily are lucky to have you, and so am I," she said, kissing my forehead. The wedding day arrived, and it was everything we had hoped for. A beautiful, sunny day, surrounded by those who mattered most. Ben and Lily stood by my side as I exchanged vows with Catherine, promising to love and cherish her for the rest of my life. As we danced under the stars that night, I felt a sense of peace and joy that I hadn't known in years. The past had been painful, but it had led me to this moment, to this incredible woman, and a future filled with hope. Jessica's revelations had given me closure, and now I was ready to fully embrace this new chapter of my life. With Catherine by my side, and Ben and Lily's laughter filling our home, I knew that the best was yet to come. The journey had been long and difficult, but standing there with my new wife and our children, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. We had found our way through the darkness, and now, together, we were stepping into the light. Life after the wedding was a blend of happiness and stability that I had longed for. Catherine was an incredible partner, and Ben and Lily were thriving. However, there was a part of me that couldn't completely let go of the past. Jessica's betrayals had left deep scars, and while I had moved on in many ways, the desire for her to face consequences still lingered. One evening, as Catherine and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, I broached the subject that had been weighing on my mind. "There's something I need to talk to you about," I began, my tone serious. Catherine looked at me with concern. "What is it, Michael?" "I've been thinking about everything Jessica did, and how she's never really faced the consequences. I know it sounds petty, but I need to do something about it." Catherine listened intently, her expression thoughtful. "What are you thinking?" "I don't want to do anything illegal or harmful, but I do want her to understand the impact of her actions. I want her to feel some of the pain she caused me and the kids." Catherine nodded slowly. "I understand where you're coming from. But you need to be careful, Michael. This kind of thing can consume you if you're not careful. I know, I said, squeezing her hand. I just need to do this, to close that chapter once and for all. With Catherine's cautious support, I began to plan. My goal was to expose Jessica's actions in a way that would force her to confront the damage she had done without resorting to anything malicious or harmful. I wanted her to face the truth, just as I had. First, I gathered all the evidence of her affairs and deceit. The photos, emails, and messages that had once been sources of pain now became tools for my plan. I knew that her professional life was important to her, and that her reputation at work was something she valued highly. I decided to send an anonymous package to her workplace. Inside, I included a detailed account of her actions, along with the evidence to back it up. I also included a letter explaining that this was not done out of spite, but as a means to hold her accountable for her actions. I made sure to stress the impact her behavior had on our family and how her lies had shattered our lives. When I sent the package, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I knew there was no turning back now. All I could do was wait and see how it would unfold. A few days later, I received a call from Frank, the private investigator who had helped me before. Michael, it looks like your package had quite an impact. Jessica's workplace is in an uproar. I felt a grim satisfaction. What happened? Her colleagues are talking, and it's clear that her reputation has taken a hit. There's a lot of sympathy for you and the kids, and people are questioning her integrity. She's been called into several meetings with HR. Hearing this, I felt a sense of closure. Jessica was finally facing the consequences of her actions. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice and accountability. Catherine noticed the change in me. You seem lighter, she said one evening as we sat together. Do you feel better? I do, I admitted. It's like a weight has been lifted. I needed to do this, not just for me, but for Ben and Lily. They deserve to know that actions have consequences. In the weeks that followed, Jessica reached out to me, not in anger, but in remorse. She wanted to talk, to apologize again, and to try to make amends. We met one final time, and this time it was on my terms. Michael, I know I've said it before, but I am truly sorry for everything, Jessica began. I've lost so much because of my mistakes. I believe you, I replied. But this isn't just about you and me. It's about the kids, and it's about facing the truth. I hope this experience has taught you something valuable. She nodded, tears in her eyes. It has. I've started therapy and I'm trying to be a better person. I want to be a better mother to Ben and Lily, even if I can't undo the past. I took a deep breath. I hope you succeed, for their sake. But understand this. Our lives are moving forward without you. You need to find your way now. As I left that meeting, I felt a sense of finality. The chapter with Jessica was truly closed. My focus was now on my future with Catherine and the kids. The plan for revenge had transformed into a quest for closure and accountability, and it had brought me the peace I sought. With the past finally behind me, I looked forward to the new life we were building. The future was bright, and for the first time in years, I felt truly free. The aftermath of my actions against Jessica brought an unexpected calm to my life. Her workplace upheaval and her genuine remorse indicated that she had finally begun to understand the gravity of her actions. Meanwhile, my family and I continued to thrive, the shadows of the past steadily retreating. Catherine and I settled into our roles as partners and parents. The kids were flourishing, their laughter and joy filling our home with a warmth I had missed for so long. One evening, while tucking Ben and Lily into bed, Ben asked me a question that caught me off guard. Dad, do you think Mom will ever be happy again? His question reflected a maturity beyond his years, and I paused before answering. I hope so, Ben. People make mistakes, but they can learn from them and become better. What matters is that we're happy and that we have each other. He seemed to accept my answer, nodding thoughtfully. I'm glad we have Catherine. She makes us all happy. As I kissed them goodnight, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the family we had built. Catherine had become more than just a partner. She was the glue that held us together. A few weeks later, an unexpected development occurred. Jessica had been attending therapy regularly and had reached out to Catherine requesting a meeting. Catherine, always empathetic, agreed, believing it might be a step towards further healing for all of us. They met at a local cafe, and Catherine shared the details with me afterward. Jessica seems genuinely changed, Catherine said. She's acknowledged her mistakes and wants to make amends not just with you, but with the kids as well. I listened, conflicted. While I appreciated Jessica's efforts to improve, I was protective of the life we had created. What do you think we should do? I think we should give her a chance to explain herself to the kids, to apologize properly, Catherine suggested. It could be good for them to see that people can change and that it's okay to forgive. Reluctantly, I agreed. We arranged for Jessica to visit our home one afternoon, allowing her to speak with Ben and Lily. As she arrived, I could see the nervousness in her eyes. The kids were apprehensive but curious. Jessica sat down with them, her voice trembling as she began. Ben, Lily, I know I've made many mistakes, and I've hurt you and your dad deeply. I am so sorry for everything. I'm working hard to be a better person, and I hope you can forgive me one day. The kids listened, their expressions serious. After a moment, Lily spoke up. Are you going to hurt us again? Jessica's eyes filled with tears. No, Lily. I promise you I will never hurt you again. I love you both very much, and I want to be a better mom for you. Ben and Lily looked at each other, then at me. I nodded, encouraging them to express their feelings. Ben finally said, We'll try, Mom. We'll try to forgive you. It was a small step, but a significant one. Jessica's visit marked the beginning of a new phase in our lives, one where the past could coexist with the present without overshadowing it. She continued her therapy, and we established a schedule for supervised visits, allowing her to rebuild her relationship with the children gradually. Catherine and I watched these developments with cautious optimism. We remained vigilant, ensuring that the kids' well-being was always the priority. As Jessica worked to regain their trust, our bond as a family grew stronger. One weekend, we decided to take a trip to the mountains, seeking some time away from the everyday routine. The fresh air and scenic views were a perfect backdrop for reflection and connection. We hiked, played games, and shared stories around a campfire. On the last night of our trip, as we sat under a starlit sky, Ben asked me to tell a story from my childhood. I recounted a tale of a camping trip with my father, filled with adventure and mishaps. The kids laughed, their eyes wide with excitement. Catherine leaned in and whispered, This is what it's all about, Michael. Creating new memories, building a future together. She was right. The past had shaped us, but it didn't define us. We had the power to create our destiny, one filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. As we packed up to head home the next morning, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had brought us to this moment, to this family, to this future. We were stronger, more resilient, and ready to face whatever came next. With Catherine by my side and the kids growing up surrounded by love, I knew we could overcome any challenge. The new reality we had built was one of hope and healing, and it was ours to cherish and protect. The period of cautious optimism following Jessica's apology and the beginning of her reconciliation with the kids was short-lived. It wasn't long before old patterns re-emerged, and I found myself questioning whether her remorse was genuine or merely a facade. The first sign came in the form of missed visits. Jessica started canceling her scheduled time with Ben and Lily, citing various reasons, from work emergencies to personal issues. Initially, I tried to be understanding, but as the cancellations became more frequent, it became clear that she was slipping back into her old, unreliable ways. One evening, after yet another canceled visit, I sat down with Catherine to discuss the situation. I don't know what to do, I admitted, frustration evident in my voice. She promised to change, but it feels like we're right back where we started. Catherine nodded, her expression one of concern. The kids are noticing too. They were looking forward to seeing her today, and now they're disappointed again. It was then that I realized I couldn't allow Jessica to continue hurting them. I needed to take decisive action to protect my children from further emotional harm. The final straw came a few weeks later when I received a call from Ben's school. He had gotten into a fight with another student, something completely out of character for him. I rushed to the school, worried about what had happened. When I arrived, I found Ben sitting in the principal's office, looking upset and defiant. The principal explained that the fight had started when another student commented on Ben's unreliable mom. Ben had lashed out, unable to handle the pain and embarrassment. On the drive home, I tried to talk to Ben about what had happened. "Why didn't you tell me you were feeling this way?" I asked gently. He shrugged, tears welling up in his eyes. "I didn't want to bother you. I know you're trying to make things better." My heart broke for him. No child should have to carry such a burden. When we got home, I sat down with both Ben and Lily to discuss their feelings. "You know you can always talk to me or Catherine about anything, right?" I said, trying to reassure them. Lily nodded, her eyes wide and serious. "We know, Dad, but we just want Mom to be there for us too." Their words solidified my resolve. It was time to confront Jessica once and for all, and make it clear that her inconsistency and negligence would no longer be tolerated. I arranged a meeting with her at a neutral location, determined to lay everything out on the table. When she arrived, I didn't waste any time. "Jessica, this has to stop," I began, my tone firm. "Your behavior is hurting Ben and Lily more than you realize. You can't keep canceling on them and breaking promises." She looked taken aback, tears immediately springing to her eyes. "Michael, I'm trying, but it's hard. My life is so chaotic right now." "I understand that you're going through a lot," I replied, trying to remain calm. "But the kids need stability. They need to know they can rely on you. If you can't commit to being there for them, then we need to rethink these visits." Jessica's face crumpled and she began to sob. "I don't want to lose them. I love them so much." "Then show it," I said, my voice softening slightly. "Be consistent. Be reliable. If you need help, seek it, but don't make promises you can't keep." After a long, emotional conversation, we reached an agreement. Jessica would attend more intensive therapy and work on her issues. In the meantime, her visits with the kids would be less frequent, but more structured and supervised to ensure consistency. Back at home, I explained the situation to Ben and Lily in the simplest terms possible, assuring them that this was a step towards making things better. They seemed to understand, though I could see the lingering sadness in their eyes. Catherine and I continued to provide a stable, loving environment for them. We enrolled them in activities they enjoyed, spent quality family time together, and made sure they knew they were loved and valued. In the months that followed, Jessica made a genuine effort to improve. Her visits became more consistent, and she appeared more engaged and present when she was with the kids. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a step in the right direction. Through it all, Catherine remained my rock, offering support and understanding. Our relationship grew stronger as we navigated these challenges together, united in our commitment to providing the best possible life for Ben and Lily. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, I felt hopeful that we were on the right path. With determination and love, we were building a future where the past no longer held us back, a future filled with promise and the potential for healing and happiness. The weeks and months that followed Jessica's renewed commitment to therapy and consistent visitation brought a tentative peace to our lives. Ben and Lily slowly began to rebuild their trust in her, though the process was understandably fragile. Meanwhile, Catherine and I focused on nurturing the stable environment that our children needed. One crisp fall afternoon, Catherine and I decided to take the kids apple picking at a nearby orchard. The outing was a perfect way to enjoy the changing seasons and create new, happy memories. As we wandered through the rows of apple trees, the kids ran ahead, their laughter echoing in the cool air. "This is exactly what we all needed," Catherine said, her hand slipping into mine. "A day to just be together, without any worries." I squeezed her hand, grateful for her presence in our lives. "You're right. It's been a challenging year, but moments like this remind me why we keep pushing forward." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the orchard, we gathered our baskets filled with apples and headed home. That evening, we baked apple pies together, the kitchen filled with the comforting aroma of cinnamon and spices. It was a simple, perfect day, one that felt like a small victory in our journey toward healing. Jessica's efforts to improve continued, and while there were occasional setbacks, her commitment appeared genuine. She attended all her scheduled visits and gradually became a more reliable presence in the children's lives. It wasn't easy to let go of the past hurt, but seeing the positive impact on Ben and Lily made it worth the effort. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Catherine and I sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, sipping hot chocolate. The air was crisp, and the sky was clear, dotted with stars. "I've been thinking," Catherine said, breaking the comfortable silence. What if we invited Jessica over for Thanksgiving? It could be a way to show the kids that we're all working together for their sake. I was taken aback by the suggestion. The idea of having Jessica in our home for a holiday seemed daunting, but I understood Catherine's reasoning. It could be a significant step toward demonstrating unity and forgiveness. Are you sure that's a good idea? I asked, voicing my concerns. What if it ends up being too much for everyone? Catherine smiled gently. I think it's worth trying. We can set clear boundaries and expectations. Besides, the kids might appreciate seeing us all together, even if just for one day. After some contemplation, I agreed. We extended the invitation to Jessica, who accepted with a mix of gratitude and nervousness. Thanksgiving approached with a sense of anticipation and anxiety. On the day of the gathering, we prepared a traditional feast. Catherine and I worked seamlessly in the kitchen, our movements coordinated from years of shared meals and experiences. Ben and Lily helped set the table, their excitement palpable. When Jessica arrived, there was a brief moment of awkwardness, but Catherine's warm welcome eased the tension. We sat down to dinner, and as we shared the meal, the atmosphere gradually relaxed. Conversation flowed, and laughter punctuated the evening, creating a sense of normalcy that had been missing for so long. After dinner, as we sat around the living room with mugs of cider, Ben spoke up. I'm really glad we're all here together. It feels like family. His words were simple but profound, capturing the essence of what we were trying to achieve. It wasn't about forgetting the past, but about building a future where trust and love could flourish. As the evening came to an end, Jessica thanked us for including her. This means more to me than you know, she said, her voice filled with genuine emotion. I'm committed to being a better person and a better mother. Thank you for giving me the chance. In the days that followed, the Thanksgiving gathering proved to be a turning point. The kids seemed more at ease, and the lines of communication between us and Jessica improved. We continued to work together, setting aside old grievances for the sake of our children's happiness. Catherine and I grew closer through these experiences, and our bond was strengthened by the challenges we faced together. We made plans for the future, dreams of new adventures, and continued growth as a family. One evening, as we sat on the porch, Catherine leaned her head on my shoulder. We've come a long way, haven't we? I nodded, feeling a deep sense of contentment. We have, and I couldn't have done it without you. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the love and resilience that had carried us through. Here's to many more moments like this, and to building a future filled with love and trust. As we gazed at the stars, I knew that the journey was far from over. But with Catherine by my side and our children thriving, I felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. The past had shaped us, but it was our determination and love that would define our future. The peace following our Thanksgiving gathering was reassuring, but there was an underlying tension I couldn't shake. Jessica's efforts to reconcile and build a better relationship with Ben and Lily seemed genuine, yet something in me remained unsettled. I knew that for complete closure, I needed answers to questions that had long haunted me. One evening, as Catherine and I were sitting by the fireplace after putting the kids to bed, I brought up the topic that had been on my mind. I need to know the full truth, Catherine, I said, staring into the flames. About Ben and Lily's paternity. It's the last piece of the puzzle that I can't seem to ignore. Catherine looked at me thoughtfully, understanding the gravity of my words. Are you thinking about doing a DNA test? I nodded. I am. It's not that it would change my love for them, but I need to know. I need to close this chapter completely. With Catherine's support, I decided to move forward with the tests. We approached the subject delicately with the children, explaining that it was just to understand more about their family history. They were curious but trusting, and we assured them that it wouldn't change anything about how much they were loved. The days leading up to the results were filled with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Catherine and I tried to keep things as normal as possible for Ben and Lily, focusing on their activities and spending quality time together as a family. Finally, the day came when the results were ready. I opened the envelope with trembling hands, Catherine by my side. As I read the contents, a wave of emotions washed over me. The results confirmed that neither Ben nor Lily was biologically mine. I sat in stunned silence, processing the finality of the truth I had suspected but never fully accepted. Catherine placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "How do you feel?" she asked gently. "It's a lot to take in," I admitted. "I always knew it was a possibility, but seeing it in black and white, it's hard." Catherine nodded, her eyes filled with empathy. "But remember, biology doesn't define a family. Love does. You've been their father in every way that matters." Her words provided some comfort, but I knew I needed to confront Jessica one last time. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a park where the kids could play while we talked. When I saw Jessica, I could tell she sensed the gravity of the situation. We sat down on a bench watching Ben and Lily in the distance. "I got the DNA results," I began, my voice steady but filled with emotion. Jessica's eyes widened, and she nodded slowly. "I see." "They confirmed what we suspected. I'm not their biological father." She looked down, tears welling up in her eyes. "Michael, I am so sorry. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. I was scared and selfish, and I didn't want to lose you." Her apology was sincere, but it didn't lessen the impact of her deceit. "I understand that you were scared, but this isn't just about us. It's about Ben and Lily. They deserve to know the truth." Jessica nodded, wiping her tears. "You're right. They deserve to know. I'm committed to being honest with them and to continuing to work on myself. I hope one day they can forgive me." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the truth settling between us. "This doesn't change how I feel about them," I said finally. "They're my children, and I will always love and protect them." Jessica looked relieved. "Thank you, Michael, for everything. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." As we watched the kids play, I felt a sense of closure. The truth was finally out, and while it was painful, it was also liberating. It allowed me to fully move forward, free from the shadows of doubt and deception. Back at home, I shared the results with Ben and Lily in the most compassionate way possible. We explained that family isn't just about biology, but about love, support, and commitment. They took the news with a maturity that surprised me, asking thoughtful questions and expressing their love for both Catherine and me. In the weeks that followed, life began to settle into a new normal. Jessica continued her efforts to build a better relationship with the kids, and I found peace in the knowledge that the truth, no matter how painful, had set us free. Catherine and I grew even closer, our bond strengthened by the challenges we had faced together. We made plans for the future, dreaming of new adventures and continuing to build a life filled with love and laughter. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, I took Catherine's hand. "Thank you for standing by me through all of this. I couldn't have done it without you." She smiled, her eyes reflecting the love and resilience that had carried us through. "We're a team, Michael, and together, we can face anything." As we gazed at the stars, I knew that our journey was far from over. But with Catherine by my side and our children thriving, I felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. The truth had been unveiled, and now we could focus on building a future filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. Despite the closure brought by the DNA results, the emotional aftermath lingered. The revelation had stirred up feelings and memories that were hard to ignore. I realized that to truly move forward, I needed to confront the pain head-on, to face the emotional turmoil that had been buried beneath layers of resilience and determination. Catherine noticed my struggle. One evening, after the kids were in bed, she sat beside me on the couch, her expression full of concern. "Michael, I can see you're still hurting. You don't have to go through this alone." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. "I know, Catherine. It's just, there's so much to process. I thought finding out the truth would bring closure, but it's brought up so many old wounds." She nodded, her eyes empathetic. "Maybe it's time to talk to someone. A therapist. You've been so strong for everyone else, but you need to take care of yourself too." Her suggestion made sense. I had been so focused on protecting Ben and Lily and on building a new life with Catherine that I had neglected my healing. I agreed to seek therapy, hoping it would help me navigate through the complex emotions I was experiencing. My first session with Dr. Thompson was a mix of apprehension and relief. She was a seasoned therapist with a calm demeanor that put me at ease. As I sat in her office, I felt the barriers I had built up begin to crumble. Tell me about what brings you here, Michael, she said gently. I hesitated, then began to share my story. Jessica's infidelity, the deception about the children's paternity, the emotional roller coaster of the past few years. As I spoke, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me: anger, sadness, betrayal, and a deep sense of loss. Dr. Thompson listened intently, her expression thoughtful. You've been through an incredible amount of pain, Michael. Understandably, you're struggling to process it all. Healing takes time, and it's okay to acknowledge the hurt. Over the next few sessions, we delved deeper into my feelings. Dr. Thompson helped me understand that while the betrayal had been a significant part of my life, it didn't define me. She encouraged me to explore my identity beyond the pain, to reconnect with the parts of myself that had been overshadowed by the turmoil. One breakthrough moment came when I talked about my relationship with Ben and Lily. I've always loved them as my own, but now that I know they're not biologically mine, I worry that it changes things. Dr. Thompson leaned forward, her eyes kind. Biology is only one aspect of being a parent, Michael. Your love, your presence, and your commitment are what truly define your relationship with them. They see you as their father, and that bond is unbreakable. Her words resonated deeply. I realized that my role as a father was not diminished by the DNA results. If anything, it was strengthened by the love and dedication I had shown them. This understanding brought a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. At home, I noticed a change in how I interacted with Ben and Lily. I was more present, more engaged, and more open about my feelings. We had honest conversations about their thoughts and fears, and I reassured them that my love for them would never waver. Catherine's unwavering support was a cornerstone of my healing process. She stood by me through the highs and lows, her patience and understanding providing a safe space for me to express my emotions. One evening, as we sat by the fire, I turned to Catherine. Thank you for being here for me. I don't think I could have navigated through this without you. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the depth of her love. We're in this together, Michael. I'm here for you, always. As the weeks turned into months, I continued my therapy sessions with Dr. Thompson. Each session brought new insights and a deeper understanding of myself. I learned to let go of the anger and to embrace the healing process. One day, during a particularly reflective session, Dr. Thompson asked, "What do you see for your future, Michael?" I thought for a moment, then replied, "I see a future filled with love and growth. A future where the past doesn't dictate my happiness, but instead shapes me into a stronger person." She nodded, a satisfied smile on her face. "That's a beautiful vision, Michael. Hold on to that. You deserve happiness and peace." With this newfound clarity, I felt ready to fully embrace the life Catherine and I were building. The past would always be a part of my story, but it no longer held the power to overshadow my future. As I sat with Catherine and the kids one evening, watching a movie and sharing popcorn, I realized that I had found a sense of contentment and joy that I hadn't known in years. The journey had been arduous, but it had led me to this moment, a moment of peace, surrounded by the people I loved most. The pain had been confronted, the truth had been unveiled, and now it was time to focus on the future. A future filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. Despite the strides I had made in therapy and the growing sense of peace in my life, an unsettling feeling remained. It was as if a part of me refused to let go of the pain and betrayal Jessica had caused. Deep down, I felt an unquenchable desire for her to truly understand the depths of the damage she had inflicted, not just through words, but through actions. As I sat on the porch one evening, lost in thought, Catherine joined me, her presence a comforting balm. "You seem troubled," she said softly, her hand gently resting on mine. I sighed, looking out at the twilight sky. "I can't shake this feeling, Catherine. I want Jessica to fully grasp what she did. I want her to feel the consequences of her actions in a way that words can't convey." Catherine's eyes reflected a mix of concern and understanding. "I understand your need for justice, Michael, but be careful. Sometimes the pursuit of revenge can consume you and overshadow everything else." Her words were wise, but my resolve was firm. I knew I needed to take action, not out of malice, but out of a desire for closure and accountability. The plan began to form in my mind, a way to expose Jessica's betrayal more publicly and ensure that she tangibly faced the consequences. The first step was to gather all the evidence I had accumulated over the years, photos, messages, and documents detailing her affairs and deceptions. With a meticulous eye, I organized everything into a comprehensive file, ensuring that every piece of evidence was undeniable. Next, I contacted a journalist named Linda, who specialized in investigative stories. She had a reputation for uncovering the truth and holding people accountable. After explaining my situation, she agreed to meet and discuss the possibility of exposing Jessica's actions through a detailed article. Meeting Linda at a quiet cafe, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. As I laid out the evidence before her, she listened intently, her eyes widening at the extent of Jessica's deceit. "This is quite the story, Michael," Linda said, her tone serious. "If I take this on, it's going to have significant repercussions for Jessica. Are you sure this is what you want?" I nodded, resolute. I need her to face the consequences, not just for me, but for Ben and Lily. They deserve to know that actions have repercussions. Linda agreed to take on the story, and over the next few weeks, we worked closely to ensure that every detail was accurate and supported by evidence. The article would not only expose Jessica's infidelity, but also highlight the emotional and psychological impact it had on our family. As the publication date approached, I informed Catherine of my plan. She was supportive, yet cautious. "I trust your judgment, Michael. Just make sure this is truly what you need to move forward." The day the article was published, it caused a significant stir. The headline read, "Betrayal Unveiled, a Tale of Deceit and Consequences." The story detailed Jessica's actions, supported by the evidence I had provided. It painted a vivid picture of the pain and turmoil her betrayal had caused. The reaction was swift. Jessica's friends and colleagues were shocked, and many distanced themselves from her. Social media buzzed with discussions and judgments, and Jessica found herself at the center of a storm she couldn't control. Jessica reached out to me, desperate and angry. "How could you do this to me, Michael? You've ruined my life." I remained calm, my voice steady. "You did this to yourself, Jessica. All I did was reveal the truth. You needed to face the consequences of your actions." She sobbed, the reality of her situation sinking in. "I know I hurt you, but this is too much." "It's what you deserved," I said, my tone final. "Now you know what it feels like to be betrayed and exposed." As the weeks passed, Jessica's life continued to unravel. She lost her job, her reputation in tatters. While part of me felt a grim satisfaction, another part recognized the depth of her suffering. It was a stark reminder of the power of truth and the weight of consequences. Despite the turmoil, I remained focused on my family. Catherine and I continued to build a life of love and stability for Ben and Lily. The article had brought a sense of closure, a final act of justice that allowed me to let go of the lingering anger. One evening, as we sat by the fire, Catherine turned to me. "Do you feel better now, Michael?" I nodded, a sense of peace settling over me. "I do. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Now we can truly move forward." Catherine smiled, her eyes filled with love and understanding. "We have each other, and that's what matters most. The past is behind us." As we looked into the future, I knew that we were stronger for having faced the darkness together. The journey had been long and painful, but it had led us to this moment, a moment of peace, healing, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The article had achieved its intended effect, exposing Jessica's deceit and bringing her actions to light. However, the fallout was more extensive than I had anticipated. As days turned into weeks, the consequences of my revenge began to ripple through our lives in ways I hadn't foreseen. Jessica's social and professional life crumbled. She lost her job and faced public humiliation, her reputation irreparably damaged. While I had sought justice, seeing the extent of her suffering stirred a mix of satisfaction and regret within me. The reality of her plight was a stark reminder of the power and finality of the truth. One afternoon, as I picked up Ben and Lily from school, I noticed a change in their demeanor. They seemed quieter, more subdued. On the drive home, I decided to address it. "Hey, is everything okay? You both seem a bit down." Lily glanced at Ben, then spoke softly. "Some kids at school have been talking about Mom. They read the article." My heart sank. I hadn't considered the impact the article might have on the kids. "What are they saying?" I asked gently. Ben sighed. "They say mean things about her. It's hard to hear." The weight of my actions hit me fully. In my quest for justice, I hadn't considered the collateral damage it might cause to Ben and Lily. They were bearing the brunt of the fallout, and it pained me to see them struggle. That evening, Catherine and I sat down with the kids to talk about what had happened. "I'm so sorry you're going through this," I began, my voice filled with remorse. "I wanted to make sure the truth was known, but I didn't think about how it might affect you." Catherine added, "We're here for you always. If you ever need to talk about what you're feeling, please don't hesitate to come to us." Ben nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. "We just want things to be normal again." I hugged him tightly. "We'll work through this together, I promise." The next few weeks were challenging. Catherine and I focused on providing as much support as possible for Ben and Lily. We met with their teachers and the school counselor, ensuring they had the resources they needed to navigate this difficult time. During one of our evening discussions, Catherine suggested we arrange a family therapy session to help us all process the recent events. "It might help us understand each other better and heal from this together," she said. I agreed, recognizing the wisdom in her suggestion. We found a family therapist, Dr. Emily Carter, who specialized in helping families through crises. Our first session was emotional but cathartic. Dr. Carter encouraged open communication and helped us express our feelings in a safe environment. "Michael, you've been through a lot, and it's clear you wanted justice," Dr. Carter said during one session. "But how do you feel about the impact it's had on your family?" I took a deep breath, struggling to find the right words. I wanted Jessica to face the consequences, but I didn't consider how it would affect Ben and Lily. I feel guilty for that. Dr. Carter nodded. "It's important to acknowledge that. Healing involves recognizing the unintended consequences of our actions and finding ways to move forward. Through therapy, we began to rebuild our trust and communication as a family. Ben and Lily found a space to express their pain and confusion, and Catherine and I learned to support them better. One evening, after a particularly emotional session, Ben came to me and said, "Dad, I know you were trying to do the right thing. I just wish it didn't hurt so much." His words were a poignant reminder of the complexity of justice and the far-reaching effects of our actions. I hugged him, feeling a mixture of pride and sorrow. "I know, Ben. I wish that too. But we'll get through this together." As time passed, the wounds began to heal. Jessica, too, started to make amends in her way. She continued her therapy and reached out to the kids, expressing her remorse and commitment to being a better mother. While the road to rebuilding their relationship was long and uncertain, there was a glimmer of hope. Catherine and I focused on strengthening our bond and creating a loving, stable environment for the kids. We planned trips, spent quality time together, and celebrated small victories along the way. Our family's resilience shone through, and we found joy in the simple moments of togetherness. One afternoon, as we sat in the backyard, watching Ben and Lily play, Catherine turned to me and said, "We've come a long way, haven't we?" I smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "We have, and I'm grateful for every step of this journey with you." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we watched the sunset, a symbol of the new beginnings we had fought so hard to create. The past had left its mark, but it had also taught us the power of love, forgiveness, and the importance of moving forward. As we faced the future, I knew that we were stronger together. The impact of my actions had been profound, but it had also led us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and each other. With Catherine by my side, and the love of our children guiding us, I felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The journey of healing was ongoing, but it was a journey we would walk together, hand in hand. The struggles of the past months had tested our family's resilience, but they had also brought us closer together. Jessica's public downfall and the impact it had on Ben and Lily were profound, yet through therapy and open communication, we managed to find a path toward healing. As we continued this journey, an unexpected opportunity presented itself, one that would mark a significant turning point in our lives. It all began with a phone call from my old college friend David. We hadn't spoken in years, but he had heard about the recent turmoil in my life and reached out to offer support. During our conversation, he mentioned that his company was looking for a project manager to lead a new initiative. The position was in a different city, but it promised a fresh start and exciting prospects. "Think about it, Michael," David said. "It could be the change you need, a new environment, new challenges, and a chance to leave the past behind. I discussed the possibility with Catherine that evening. She listened intently, her eyes reflecting both excitement and concern. "It sounds like a great opportunity," she said thoughtfully, "but it's a big decision. How do you feel about moving?" "I think it could be good for us," I admitted. "A fresh start, away from all the memories and gossip. But it's not just about me. We need to consider Ben and Lily too." We decided to discuss the idea with the kids, presenting it as an adventure and a chance to explore new possibilities. To our relief, they were surprisingly enthusiastic about the prospect. "Can we have a big yard with a treehouse?" Ben asked, his eyes wide with excitement. "And a room where I can paint?" Lily added, her face lighting up. Their positive reactions made the decision easier. We agreed to take the plunge and move to the new city, embracing the opportunity for a fresh start. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. We put our house on the market, started packing up our belongings, and made arrangements for the move. Jessica, though saddened by the news, understood our need for a new beginning and supported our decision. On the day of the move, as we stood in our empty house one last time, I felt a mix of emotions. This home had been the backdrop to so many memories, both good and bad. But now, it was time to let go and look forward to the future. The drive to our new city was filled with anticipation and a sense of adventure. As we arrived at our new home, a spacious house with a large backyard and plenty of room for the kids to play, I felt a surge of hope. This was our chance to start over, build new memories, and create a life filled with joy and possibilities. David and his wife Sarah welcomed us warmly, helping us settle in and get acquainted with the city. The kids quickly made new friends, and Catherine and I found ourselves enjoying the change of pace and the fresh energy of our new surroundings. My new job was challenging, but rewarding. Leading a dynamic team on an exciting project reinvigorated my passion for work, and the supportive environment helped me thrive. Catherine, too, found fulfillment in her new role at a local community center, where she could use her skills to make a positive impact. One evening, a few months after our move, we sat in the backyard watching the kids play. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the scene. Catherine turned to me, her eyes filled with contentment. "This feels right, doesn't it?" she said softly. "Like we've finally found our place." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "It does. I'm so glad we took this chance." As we sat there, enjoying the tranquility of our new home, I realized that the move had indeed been a turning point. It has given us the space and perspective to heal, grow, and build a future free from the shadows of the past. Jessica continued her journey of self-improvement and maintained a steady relationship with Ben and Lily. Her efforts to rebuild trust and be a better mother were genuine, and the kids appreciated her commitment. One weekend, Jessica visited us in our new home. It was a bittersweet moment, but it also felt like a necessary step toward complete healing. We shared a meal, talked about the future, and even laughed together. It was a sign that despite everything, we could find common ground for the sake of our children. As the evening drew to a close, Jessica pulled me aside. "Thank you, Michael, for giving me a chance to be part of their lives. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm grateful." I smiled, feeling a sense of closure. "We're all trying to move forward, Jessica. It's the least we can do for Ben and Lily." That night, as I stood on the porch with Catherine, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The journey had been long and arduous, filled with pain and difficult choices, but it had also led us to this moment, a moment of hope, love, and the promise of a brighter future. "We've come a long way," I said, wrapping my arm around Catherine. She leaned into me, her eyes reflecting the strength of our bond. "And we've got so much to look forward to." As we gazed at the stars, I knew that the turning point had not just been the move, but the decision to embrace the future with open hearts and minds. The past had shaped us, but it no longer defined us. Together, we were ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that our love and resilience would guide us through. With the move behind us and a sense of stability settling in, our lives took on a new rhythm. Ben and Lily adapted well to their new school, making friends and excelling in their activities. Catherine and I found joy in exploring the city, discovering new favorite spots, and creating memories that would shape this new chapter of our lives. One sunny Saturday, we decided to host a neighborhood barbecue. It was a perfect opportunity to get to know our new neighbors and build a sense of community. We spent the morning setting up the backyard, hanging lights, and arranging tables. Ben and Lily helped with decorations, their excitement contagious. As guests began to arrive, I felt a sense of warmth and belonging that had been missing for so long. Laughter filled the air, and the smell of grilled food wafted through the yard. David and Sarah were among the first to arrive, their easygoing presence setting the tone for the day. "Thanks for hosting this, Michael," David said, handing me a cooler filled with drinks. "It's great to see you so happy." I smiled, genuinely grateful for his friendship. "It's good to be here. This move was exactly what we needed." Throughout the afternoon, I mingled with neighbors, sharing stories and getting to know the people who would be part of our new life. Catherine was in her element, effortlessly connecting with everyone and making them feel welcome. Her natural warmth and kindness were a beacon, drawing people in and fostering a sense of community. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the backyard, I took a moment to step back and take it all in. Ben and Lily were playing with their new friends, their laughter a testament to the resilience of the children. Catherine was deep in conversation with Sarah, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. It was then that I realized just how far we had come. The pain and betrayal of the past were still there, but they no longer defined our lives. We had created something beautiful out of the ashes, and it was time to fully embrace the future. That evening, as we cleaned up and said our goodbyes, Catherine and I shared a quiet moment on the porch. The stars were beginning to appear, a reminder of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. "This feels like home," I said, wrapping my arm around her. She smiled, resting her head on my shoulder. "It does. We've built something special here." In the days that followed, life continued to blossom. Jessica maintained her efforts to be a better mother, and while our interactions were limited, they were respectful and focused on the well-being of Ben and Lily. Her visits became more structured, and the kids began to look forward to their time with her, a sign that healing was taking place. One evening, after a particularly successful visit with Jessica, Ben and Lily approached me with a request. "Dad, can we invite Mom to our school play?" Lily asked, her eyes hopeful. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Of course, sweetheart. She must see you both shine." The school play was a significant event for Ben and Lily, and as the night approached, their excitement was palpable. Catherine and I helped them rehearse their lines, made costumes, and ensured everything was perfect. On the night of the play, the auditorium was filled with parents and families. Catherine and I took our seats, feeling a mix of pride and anticipation. Jessica arrived shortly after, and while there was a brief moment of awkwardness, we quickly found common ground in our shared love for the kids. As the play began, I watched Ben and Lily take the stage, their confidence and joy evident in every word and gesture. It was a moment of pure happiness, a testament to their strength and resilience. After the play, we gathered in the school lobby to congratulate them. Jessica approached, her eyes filled with tears of pride. "They were amazing," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "They were," I agreed, feeling a sense of unity that had been elusive for so long. "We're all very proud of them." As we stood there, sharing a moment of mutual pride, I realized that this was the true meaning of family. It wasn't about perfection or the absence of pain, but about love, support, and the willingness to move forward together. In the months that followed, we continued to build on this foundation. Catherine and I focused on our relationship, finding joy in the everyday moments and planning for the future. We took trips, explored new hobbies, and made a point to cherish the time we had together. Ben and Lily thrived, their confidence growing with each new experience. They developed close friendships, excelled in their activities, and found joy in the stability we had worked so hard to create. One afternoon, as we sat in the backyard watching the kids play, Catherine turned to me with a smile. "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" I asked, curious. She took a deep breath, her eyes shining with excitement. "What if we expanded our family? I've always wanted to adopt, and I think we're in a place where we could give another child a loving home." Her suggestion took me by surprise, but as I considered it, I felt a sense of excitement and possibility. "I think that's a wonderful idea. Let's look into it." The decision to adopt marked a new chapter in our lives, one filled with hope and the promise of new beginnings. As we embarked on this journey, we felt a renewed sense of purpose and joy. In the end, it wasn't the absence of pain or the erasure of the past that defined our happiness. We could embrace the future with open hearts, to find strength in each other, and to build a life filled with love, resilience, and endless possibilities.